As part of Human Rights Day, a group is holding a disability inclusion dialogue in Lagos. Let's bring in activist Okei-Odumakin, who joins us on the sideline of that event on the news now. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7 and happy Human Rights Day to you. You agree with me that 2019 is indeed a landmark event, a landmark year for persons living with disability in Nigeria. In January, the Disability Rights Act the bill that has been gathering dust for almost 18 years was eventually passed into law. How much impact would you say that this act has had on the human rights for persons living with disabilities in Nigeria?
Sorry, come again.
I'm asking that how much impact has the Disability Rights Act had on persons living with disabilities in Nigeria?
Well, we'll have a person living with disabilities in Nigeria. But talking about the impact now, one thing is that there has not been massive awareness, because as we speak, we still have people living with disabilities facing lots of discrimination. Access is one big issue. Again, you'll find out that those living with disabilities, inclusion, how as a society help them, but you see that a lot of them suffer discrimination. And that is to say that even in the act, anyone that violates the act is subject to either 6 months imprisonment, payment of 100,000 fine, even for corporate organizations, 1 million. But we'll find out that it's underreported, because a lot of people living with disabilities feel that already that some of them would be stigmatized. So most of the times, it's not even reported. Then you find out in workplace, there's that discrimination. People living with disabilities, in terms of job, they are not given job. In terms of access, it's a far cry. And we'll also find out that apart from giving them the necessary skills, creating awareness, how far has the society been able to accept people living with disabilities? And that is one big question. But we know that in marking human rights cannot be complete without disability rights. Disability rights is also human rights, and that's why the law will not be useful if we don't adhere to such.
Let's talk about what is being done right now, aftermath this bill was made an act as early as January this year. One of the key provisions of the disability right is to provide for a 5-year transitional period within which public buildings and other structures will conform. You mentioned accessibility earlier for people living with disability. How much work would you say it's being done as regards this?
Well, a lot of work is not being done, because the question is it just lip service that people are paying? You'll find out that even structures, buildings, it should be accessible. But as we speak, we have a 5-year plan. But now, nothing much is being done. You see lots of big structures are going through construction. But these people will not even adhere to such. We'll talk about buildings, we'll talk about transportation, and several other things. So I think that this is the time for each and every one to ensure that these provisions is strictly adhered to. If not, we are going to have a lot of our people living with disabilities being shut out. Okay, I'm around now for today's program. Yes, it's good, the building where we have, there is access, but that's just maybe like 5%. What about others? So I think that this is a wake-up call. Government must ensure that adequate plans is put in place so as to let those who have these buildings, who are not even willing to conform with what the act says.
Apparently, we look forward to the activation of these rights from all of the relevant quarters. Human rights activist Okei-Odumakin, thank you for talking to us tonight.